Hey guys, Dylan the Head here with another video, and this one we're going to talk about the differences between weapons and why it's kind of important to pay attention to the kind of behemoth you're trying to hunt, and more importantly try to find a good playstyle that works for you while also trying to be the most helpful within a team. Because for instance, me, I currently am really preferring the sword. I'll admit I haven't played with too many of the weapons, but the sword kind of seems to match my playstyle anyway, so I've been enjoying it quite a bit. But once I encountered the Skarn, this behemoth right here, it became pretty apparent to me that it was not the right weapon for the task. If you'll notice, I'm doing very low damage. The sword actually feels like it's swinging slower. You can almost hear kind of like a clunk noise as you're hitting it. I went from doing 200 to doing 26 per swing, so that really goes to show how like the sword is not well kitted for the Skarn. Not to say you can't do it though, because as we're going to show here that like through trial and effort, this was my first Skarn hunt and I was determined to finish it regardless of the wrong weapon choice. And you know, if you hit a rock long enough with a sword, I guess eventually you can in fact break the rock, but needless to say, it was far more difficult than it was truly necessary. We do finally knock it over there, but now in comparison, look at the hammer. The hammer just immediately did a perfect interrupt, is doing great damage. And not only is it also doing great damage to the rock, it is doing damage underneath, and it is providing stagger. We just knocked down that behemoth with little to no effort, compared to the sword, which was just clunking away for hours on end. Right now I'm using an ice hammer, so it also is providing a slow effect with something like the Skarn. This is great. It gives me ample opportunity to keep wailing on him. I ended up knocking him over there with a break, and then we're getting the stagger effect building up, as you can clearly see. And honestly, the hammer just did work against the Skarn. I think that's going to hands down be my go-to weapon every time I hunt a Skarn, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, is to make it apparent to everyone that like, just because you might have a preferred weapon, you might have the weapon that you commonly use, doesn't necessarily mean it's the best weapon to hunt with. There's a lot of times where I've noticed that there's players out there that are using a sword against a Skarn, or honestly I would even say using a hammer against like a Shrike. You can, it's just a matter of, it's such a fast creature that with a Shrike at least, that you're going to want to go ahead and use a little bit faster of a weapon to help kind of keep up and swing at it faster. It does do good hits when it does hit, but you got to be able to make it connect, which doesn't necessarily come that easily, especially with a very slow swinging weapon. But ultimately every weapon can be used and should be used if you enjoy it the most. Like, whatever brings you happiness is the #1 priority with this. However, I do strongly suggest you look into a weapon loadout. Here we actually are showing some 4-player hunt, and I went back to the sword because I wanted to kind of show that like you can still continue to succeed with a weapon even if you aren't really doing so well on your own. The fact that you have other players in there really gives you a lot of ample opportunities. You'll notice that I'm able to get a lot more attacks in because not all the attacks are directed specifically at me, and it's also causing like the like we can see here, a lot of times the armor plating is getting removed, which is allowing me to swipe into strike. And there are some advantages from using like a sword or the chain blade, as you can also see, that we're a lot faster and we're able to get in and get the underbelly as soon as the Skarn lifts itself, which is a fantastic opportunity that the hammer might not necessarily be able to make, because the only way to really get to and from with a hammer is to run or dodge roll. And so we're able to have a lot of these ample opportunities where we're able to really just lay in the damage and work together as a team, and we did get a successful slay. Ultimately, I regret not bringing my hammer though, because I feel like I could have done a lot more for the team had I brought the hammer. Maybe let the chain blade user be the one that did the attacks of opportunity, and I would just focus on the steady DPS. But so we see here the hammer again. It's a really good go-to weapon for an armored creature, but you're definitely going to want to go ahead and think of other weapon types. Obviously the repeater would be another good one. It's a nice long range damage. It is slashing, so it's not going to penetrate as easily, but for situations like this where the attacks of opportunity, where it goes on its hind legs, it could be a great time to use a repeater. Or also this might be a really good creature to use a pike against. The pike being able to set up wounding and being able to give crit spots for the rest of the weapons would really enable us to wail in even if there is that stony hide. And if not, again, a hammer user could definitely be a vital part of a team here, being able to break off those stone pieces and allowing large spikes in DPS, which would be fantastic. But another important feature that I haven't really even touched too much on, Elemental. I'm currently using an ice hammer, which again, it is slowing the creature and providing me plenty of opportunities to really wail on it. But also, it's really important to take into account, like, if this wasn't a neutral behemoth and this was one that was of a particular element, if I was using fighting against a fire element, then yeah, the ice hammer is a fantastic choice. But if I was using a fire hammer against a fire elemental, then you would see the DPS drastically drop. And you can actually even see that in the weapon description itself. You can actually see where, like, it says strong, weak, or neutral. And then that tells you the damage type depending upon what kind of behemoth you're going against and whether or not it has a strong immunity to it, or a strong weakness to it rather, or really weak against it. So you're going to want to use your weapons. You're going to try to build up as many good weapons as you can and be able to swap them out depending on the creature. Because you could use just a generic single neutral weapon, but I think ultimately you're better off trying to find an elemental weapon or anything that you prefer to utilize, and make sure you kind of mix and match depending upon the element of the creature. Now, if it's a neutral, obviously whatever weapon you want to use works just fine, and sometimes even having different elemental types will provide you different effects that you prefer. I actually really like the fire weapons because when you do set the behemoth ablaze, 1, it looks fantastic, and 2, it just does a lot of DPS over time. And being able to kind of sit back and watch the flames, I've actually had several behemoths die just to flames without me having any interaction, so I think that is a really helpful and useful thing. But you also have to keep in mind there are also kind of like sub-effects of certain weapons. Like I was saying with the War Pike, we have the wounding that we can do, where if you target a specific location long enough, you cause a critical location where the wound is, allowing us to do crazy amount of damage for everyone in the hunt. But also you have the hammer here, which works beautifully for a stagger weapon, and that's what that kind of like light blue numbers are, is that's how much stagger I'm building up until eventually the poor beast falls over and I just keep wailing on it. And of course, it also gives you a lot more part breaks too, and at least in the case of the Skarn, which really keeps interrupting it and really letting the damage pile in. So I just wanted to make this video to give you guys an idea, you know, like, there's a lot of people out there that just prefer their one particular weapon, and they all have their favorites, and there's nothing wrong with that. And actually, I frankly quite enjoy the sword. I think I'm going to go back to the sword for most hunts. But in the meantime, do try to keep in mind that there are better options out there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you'd be so kind, if you can drop a like, put a comment, let me know what your favorite weapon is. I would definitely love to hear, or also, you can even brag. I took a really long time doing this Skarn hunt, so I would love to be able to know the times you guys get, because I'm sure you could do way better than I can. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll hopefully catch you guys again some other time. I will be live on Twitch this week, and I'm looking to play some Dauntless, so if you guys have an opportunity, please drop in. I'd love to be able to get you in with the hunts. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Take care.